All right, it's a day a lot of you have been waiting for and several of you have been asking for. We are finally going to test out some of our Japanese A5 Wagyu from Crowd Cow. Now, as always, the link to Crowd Cow will be in the description. If you click on the link, you'll get $25 off your first order, courtesy of Tasker's Barbecue Supply. So if you're thinking about trying any of their Wagyu or any of their regular beef, maybe even some chicken or their duck, hit that link below. It'll give you $25 off your first order. Hey everyone, before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of our subscribers and all the people who watch our videos. Without you guys, none of this would be possible. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you drop down here and hit that subscribe button in the bottom corner so you can help out our channel. We've also started a Patreon account, and all the proceeds from our Patreon account will go to funding our YouTube channel and our competition barbecue team. The link for our Patreon account will be in the description below. So remember, smash that subscribe button and let's get rolling into the video. Alright, let's get cutting this steak up. We're going to do this two different ways today. So the first thing I want to do is obviously we need to get this out of the cryovac. Now what I did when I ordered this A5 Wagyu ribeye roast is we ordered it in about a 3.5 pound roast, and then I cut it into steaks, thick, basically different slices. This is one of the thinner ones. I cut a couple thin ones and a thick one because I want to try a few different methods of cooking, thicknesses, and just try to get some variables for you guys so that you know how to cut your steak or cook your steak when you get it. So this is one of the thinner ones, and I'll tell you a little bit more once we get it out of the pack about what we're going to be doing with it today. But first, let's get it cut open. Get it pulled out here. Get that out of the way. And let me hold this up for the camera to see this beautiful, beautiful chunk of meat. So, the first thing we're going to be doing is I'm going to cut the rib cap off, which if you're not familiar with the rib cap, that is the section along the top of a ribeye up here. And that is one of the most tender areas of a ribeye steak. So I'm going to cut that and separate it from the rest of the ribeye. And one thing to note, the fat on these A5 Wagyu steaks are like cutting through butter. It's just so unreal how different it is between the fat of a normal steak. It's just like this buttery smooth texture. So we've got the rib cap off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to curl this up and I'm going to make a sort of a small steak out of this rib cap. It's going to be a little bit difficult with the way it's cut, but that'll be all right. It was a little bit uneven on the end, so when we cut the steak, it didn't quite make it perfectly even, but that's all right. So we're going to kind of curl it up like that, and we'll make just a little steak out of it by itself. Now the other thing we're going to do is I'm going to make a small steak out of the square of the eye here. So let's go ahead and cut the bottom of this ribeye off. Just like that. So you can see the excellent marbling in that steak. So we just cut a small steak there. The rest of this we're going to slice. And I'm not going to go super thin with it, but it's not going to be very thick. We're only getting about probably just under 3/8 of an inch thickness on these slices. And that's what we're gonna go ahead and do, just like that right there. Some nice slices with the whole rest of this steak. All right, we have our steak all cut. Now to tell you a little bit about what we're gonna be doing, obviously we're gonna be cooking these two as a steak, but they're going to be pan seared. So we're gonna be doing part of them on the sizzle zone on our Napoleon on a cast iron skillet. So that's what this steak's gonna be for, and some of our side slabs or our slices here. The other steak and the rest of the slices, we're going to also do them in a pan, because you don't want to set these directly on grill grates. You know, the fat content is so delicate on these steaks that the fat's literally melting just from the heat of my hand. I mean, it's literally melting down on these steaks. So if you set these on a hot grill grate directly, they just kind of start to fall apart. You can get really bad flare-ups, things like that. So we want to do them in a pan, but we're going to put the other pan in the smoker, get it nice and hot so that it has some nice smoke rolling over top of it to get that wood flavor into it while it's in the pan. So most everybody has told us the best and easiest way to do this is in a cast iron skillet. You know, that's what 90% of everybody recommends doing with A5 Wagyu is pan searing it. So I wanted to try it a couple different ways. See what all you thought, see what we think of it, and then maybe on the next steaks we'll try something a little bit different so that you can get some new ideas. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and season these up, and we're just going to be putting a little bit of Killer Hogs AP rub on them. The reason we do AP rub is it's nice salt, pepper, and garlic. Very simple flavors, nothing overpowering, because this has such a delicate flavor and such a beautiful, just different umami flavor that any type of seasoning really just doesn't even add anything to it. It almost makes it worse. Once you taste this meat in its natural state, you don't want to have a whole lot of seasonings on it. So we're just going to hit it with a little bit of AP rub to give us a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic, and that's it. And I go very, very light on this. So we'll just sprinkle some over top of our slices here. And like I said, very light. I don't like a whole lot of this on there. We'll put a little bit on our first steak here. A little bit on our rib cap steak. Season these on the other side here. Now the other thing you'll notice back in the back here, I have some of the fat off of this cut. It is not by any means going to waste. You know, A5 Wagyu fat, it's there for a reason, and I wouldn't waste that for anything. Now what I do with it, I don't have a whole lot of it here, so I'm not really going to worry about refreezing it. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll refreeze that fat, and we will put it in with sausage or ground meats or, you know, anything like that to make burger, something like that out of, and it adds an awesome flavor because that fat is just, you know, out of this world. But what I like to do is if I just have little chunks of fat like this, rather than putting an olive oil or something like that down on these pans to start searing these steaks with, you know, nothing better to coat them down with and baste them with in their own flavors. So I just take a little bit of this fat and put down in a pan and I melt it. And that's literally how tender this fat is. It will melt down and it makes a nice coating on the bottom so that they don't stick to the pan, and it gives it a really nice flavor. So I just take those and I put those in the pan to melt down and give us a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan. So trust me, none of that is going to go to waste because I would use it for something. Alright, we have our seasoning on. Now we're going to let this rest for a little bit. We don't want to go too long because just the room temperature in here will actually start breaking this fat down, and it already has. You can see where the fat's starting to melt off, and you know, it just gets this waxy look to it, and it's starting to get real nice and soft. So we're just going to let it sit for a few minutes, and then we'll get our pans nice and hot out on the grills, and we'll see you out there to show you how we cook it. All right, guys, we're out at our Napoleon Prestige Pro. I've got the sizzle zone turned on and I've got my cast iron skillet warming up. As you can probably hear, I've got our Daniel Boone in the corner over here firing up as well. I've got a cast iron and skillet in it warming up. So those are the two methods we're going to be using today. So right now I've got all my steak down here in front of me. My skillet's warming up now. It's starting to just get warm now. So the first thing I'm going to do is, like we talked about, I'm going to throw a couple chunks of that fat in there to start rendering down and give us a nice oily base on this bottom there so that we don't stick the meat to the skillet, and that it gives it some good flavor to baste on. So I'm just going to grab a couple small chunks here and throw those down in that skillet and let them start to cook. And then we'll be back here in just a few minutes when we get everything nice and warm. All right, guys, we're back. So we have our skillet nice and warm now. You can see the smoke just starting to roll off it a little bit here. Our fat's starting to render down and is making some really nice juices and oils in the bottom of this pan, so it'll be nice and non-stick for us. So we're gonna go ahead and start throwing some slices on here now, get the slices kind of done up a little bit, and then we're going to come behind that and lay our steak in there and sear that steak off. So let's get started. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this fat around here just one more time, make sure that we got it nice and lubed up here. We have a lot of oil in there, so I don't think we'll have any problem with that. As you can see, our skillet's piping hot. So let's go ahead and lay a couple of these strips in here. Just like that. Now these are only going to take about a second or two on either side, so I'm already going to flip the first one I put in. I'm just going to wait a second or two, flip the second one. Just got a hold of both of them. Wait a second or two, flip the third one. We're just going to do the same thing all the way down through. And then we're going to grab my pan down here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the first one off. And we're just going to keep pulling these right off. So that is all the more time this takes, because if we go any longer, one, we're in thin strips, so it doesn't take long with a piping hot pan to get a nice sear and get a good internal temp on these. But if I go any longer with those, that fat's just going to render out, and it's just not going to be as flavorful and as tender. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple more pieces in here. Let's throw those three, and then we'll save the rest of them for putting in the pan that's in the smoker. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull those out. All right, set those off to the side here. Now we're going to go ahead and get ready to do our steak. So I'm going to make sure there's oil all over the pan again here. Let it get real nice and hot again. You wouldn't believe the amount of oil that's in the bottom of this pan. You'd think we poured oil in here. It's puddled in it. And that's because this fat is so soft that it just renders down that quickly. So our pan looks like it's nice and hot again. We're going to go ahead and drop this steak in. Now, as you can see here, we have a nice thick cut steak on that, or at least semi-thick for my standards. And I'll kind of hold that up here and let you guys see the marbling that is on that steak. It looks absolutely fantastic. So let's go ahead and slap that puppy in there. And it's going to take just a hair longer because obviously it's a little bit thicker, but it's not going to take very long. You don't want to let this steak sit in there too long, because it just ruins the flavor and the texture of the meat. And I can already see that fat just melting off of it. see what it looks like here. Yeah, I'd say we're good to flip. And set it on this side here. Trust me, when I say it's basting in its own juices, it's almost deep frying it. There's so much fat juice in there. It's just unreal. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that. So I'm gonna bring this over here for you guys to see a little bit here on just how good that looks. It just looks outstanding. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap that down there. We're gonna go ahead and let this pan cool off a little bit here. We'll check the temperature on the pan that is in the grill, and we'll meet you over there here in just a second. All right, guys, we're gonna try to kind of get you in here nice and close so you can see what's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up here. As you can see, we have some smoke rolling out. Now, a lot of that is burning some stuff off the bottom, but we do have some nice smoke rolling off of our wood pellets. And as you can hear, we have a nice hot skillet. We have some of those chunks of fat in there burning up. Give us some nice oil at the bottom of the pan there. We're gonna go ahead and slide those off to the side, and we're gonna start setting some of this stuff in here. Now, first thing I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and lay this ribeye cap steak in. I just want to kind of give you an idea of how nice that looks. As you can see, that thing is absolutely beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and lay that in there. And that is piping hot. We're going to go ahead and lay our strips in there. Now, it will take a little bit longer doing it this way than it did doing it on the other pan, because the other pan was a lot hotter than this one. So these are going to take a few more minutes, but that's okay. That's actually what I'm hoping for, because I want to let them set in there for a minute or two and get a little bit of smoke on them and see if that helps with the flavor complexity of it. So we're just going to let those sit for here for just a few minutes and get a little bit of smoke, a little bit of heat, and then we'll flip them over and do the same. All right, let's go ahead and open up the lid. It's only been about 2 minutes, but I can see that they are good to go ahead and flip. So let's go ahead and flip these small chunks here. Those all flipped over. Now two of them all. And then I'm going to go ahead and flip this ribeye cap here. Oh man, it's just falling apart. It's so tender. Got to scoop underneath of it just to pick it up. Alright, flip that over. Let's give these things just a couple more minutes here. In fact, a lot of those strips can pretty well come off now. They're pretty much cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and grab them. Set them on the opposite side of our pan here so we can keep them separated. Know what's what. Now, one thing I can tell you, first off, it looks like the appearance is obviously a little bit better on the ones that came off of the Napoleon, and I think the most of that has to do with they were very, very quickly seared, so they really have time to sit there and what we call cook, you know, as slow as this one here is. So these ones have had a little more time to actually cook because the pan wasn't as hot. So what's happened is it shriveled up a little bit and kind of changed its shape and texture a little bit. I don't think that's going to hurt anything, but that's just some of the differences. And we'll just give it about another minute or so here, and we'll go ahead and pull that rib cap steak off as well. All right, guys, I think it can be pulled off because, I mean, it is just absolutely almost falling apart. So I think we're good. Let's go ahead and set that down on there. We'll go ahead and shut this down and let our grill cool down. Now, like I said, the biggest thing I can notice already, if you look at these, there's a definitely a difference in color. You can see these were very, very quickly seared on a very hot skillet because they have a nice crust build on them. Where this one here doesn't have quite the crust build on it, neither do a lot of the small pieces. And like I said, you can see how the small pieces kind of shriveled up and changed their shape just because of being on there a little bit longer to get to the same cook temperature. So that's one big difference. So presentation wise, doing them on just a cast iron skillet. Now obviously you don't have to do that on a gas grill. You could do it on a stove top or anything. It's just convenient for us to use the sizzle zone on the side so that we can do everything out here for you guys. But again, doing it on a really hot skillet on just a heat source of any kind seems to be, for appearance wise, the winner here. And you know, if you're serving A5 Wagyu to your friends and family, I want it to look pretty. You know, it's an expensive steak. So we'll just have to try it when we get inside here and see what we think about taste-wise. All right, we're back inside, and now it's time to test these out. So just to kind of recap a little bit, obviously these are the Japanese A5 Wagyu steaks that we got from Crowd Cow. This is just one of the slices that we made off that whole roast that we got. We did these ones over here, hot, fast, just a quick sear on a really, really hot skillet. These ones over here were still a quick sear, but they were a little bit slower than these. These were done on the pellet grill with just a cast iron skillet inside the pellet grill. So obviously it's probably only 300 degrees, maybe slightly over. So it took a little bit longer, and obviously it did change the outcome of the looks of it. But now it's time to see if it changed the outcome of the taste. All right, so let's get cutting into a couple of these. First, I'm gonna take one of these small slices that we did on the hot fast method on the Napoleon. And I can see the inside is a nice medium rare temperature, which is perfect. That's what we want. That's why it's so fast to do with these little slices. So let's take a little taste test here. I've got to eat the rest of this. That's amazing. That is just so smooth and soft that it's unreal. It's almost just basically you could just crush it with your tongue to eat it. It's so tender. The taste is outstanding. It's just got this nice mellow beef taste to it. There's just some flavors that I don't know if I can honestly describe them to you because it's not something I've ever tasted before. It's not gamey. It's just a nice, delicate flavor. Obviously, we do get a little bit of that salt and pepper taste in there, but it's a very, very nice taste. It's well balanced with the meat. I think it accents it really well because we went very light with it. So obviously, if you're doing any of these, I would not heavily season them. But that is just an outstanding taste. I'm gonna cut another little piece here. That's incredible. So I can tell you for a fact, this way, hot and fast searing them just nice and quick on basically any type of a heat source in a cast iron skillet, definitely scores high on my book. Let's go ahead and try the steak that we did that way. So I'm just gonna cut it in half here, and it's got that perfect medium rare temperature in it as well. So I'm gonna take a little chunk of it here, and you can see how easily that cuts. I mean, it literally just pulls apart. Oh man. Again, just a buttery smooth texture to it. It's perfect. It's not crispy on the outside, but it's just a little caramelization and a little bit of a crust form on the outside. It's not really crispy. It just started forming because obviously we didn't leave it in the skillet long enough. But it's perfect. You know, the inside's so soft that if you had a really crisp outside and too much crust on it, I think it would kind of work against each other. But it's got a very, very nice temperature, very nice color on the inside. You can see all the fat on the inside. Tastes amazing. So let's dig into the side that we did in the smoker. Very different taste to it. 100% you can taste that smoke in this one. I think the reason for that is that meat is so tender that it just takes in that smoke very easily. Now, we did this over in applewood because I didn't want to do anything too harsh, because I had a feeling that this meat would soak in that smoke flavor pretty quick. It is a different texture. It's almost, I hate to say it, but it's a bit chewier this way. Now, it could just be the piece. Let's try a different one here. Maybe we'll have a little bit different outcome with that. Let's try this one. I have to say, I prefer this quick method a lot more. Not that it's a bad flavor. It does really give it a little complexity to the flavor with that smoke, but it just doesn't have the texture and that really nice creamy inside smooth feel, and that nice just starting to form a crust on the outside, because the outside really didn't form any crust on this. It just kind of got cooked because it wasn't as hot. Now, maybe if you really got that thing piping hot, but you might as well face it, if you're getting that grill that hot, you're not going to get a whole lot of smoke flavor anyway, so you might as well just cook it this route here. I'm going to go ahead and try this steak here as well. Now, this may be a little bit different ball game here because of how thick it is, so let's cut it right here in the middle. Oh yeah, nice. That's probably medium rare, maybe more onto the rare side temperature wise, which is fine with me. I like rare steaks anyway. So let's cut us a chunk here. Give that a taste. Man, the inside, that is incredible. I mean, that's something there that words are hard to describe. Just outstanding. If I can get more of this, I'm getting more of this, because this is just incredible. That's like nothing I've ever tasted in my life. And obviously that's the red cap too. That's just incredible flavor. Now, that right there is not chewy, obviously because of the thickness. So maybe the trick to it is cutting it a little bit thicker if you're going to do it on the smoker, so that it doesn't get near as chewy. Maybe something we'll test in the next video on this. Like I say, this is trial and error. It's the first time we've ever done this, and that's why we're doing it, so you don't have to. But that's really good. It's got a little bit of smoky flavor to it. Obviously, it doesn't really have a crust to it, which I'm fine with, but the inside was the perfect temperature and very, very good texture. So I do really enjoy that. So I'm kind of taking a little bit back of what I said. I won't hate on that method as much now, but I'll be honest with you. I think if you're buying this for the first time and you want to try it and you want a surefire way to make it really good without screwing anything up, I think do it this way. Do it really hot and fast on that pan. Like I say, just set it in there enough for each side to get a little, just starting to form a little crust on it. Pull it off. Don't let it sit too long. You want that medium rare on the inside of your cuts. I think if you do that, you'll win for sure. But again, like I say, maybe we'll try some other methods of doing it this way in a future video. But that's been about all for us here. We're going to go ahead and eat the rest of this up because I can't wait to eat more of this. And we will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you back on the next one.